That night began with rain. Soft rain at first, then heavy and loud, like the sky was crying for someone who could not cry for themselves. In the quiet streets of Hollywood, the world slept, but one man sat awake in a dimly lit room. Keanu Reeves. His eyes were tired, not from lack of sleep, but from remembering a moment he had tried to bury deep inside his heart. He looked at his phone, hesitated for a long time, and then stood up slowly. Something inside him was calling, a feeling he could not ignore anymore. He put on his jacket, grabbed his motorcycle keys, and stepped outside into the cold night. The road was wet and shining under the streetlights, but he rode with steady hands, because he knew where he needed to go. To someone who once understood him better than he understood himself, Sandra Bullock. Years had passed since they worked together. People loved them together on screen, calling it chemistry, fate, magic. But what people did not know was that behind the scenes there was something deeper. A friendship made of comfort, gentle laughter, shared silence, and a kind of connection that did not demand anything. They never dated. They never crossed certain lines. Maybe that was why it lasted. Maybe that was why it mattered. But tonight, Keanu felt something was wrong, and he did not know why. When he reached her house, he stood there for a moment, rain dripping from his hair, breath misting in the cold air. What was he even going to say? He did not have the answer. He only had the feeling, the quiet, heavy feeling in his chest that told him she needed him. He knocked, gently, then louder. The door opened slowly. Sandra stood there, wearing a loose sweater, eyes swollen, like she had been crying for hours. She did not speak. She did not need to. The moment she saw him, something inside her broke. Her voice came out as a whisper, almost silent, almost lost. "You came." Keanu nodded. "I didn't know why. I just felt like I should." Sandra stepped back, letting him in. The house was silent except for the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the rain against the windows. They moved to the living room. She sat on the couch, hugging her knees, like a child trying to make herself small. He sat beside her, not close enough to overwhelm, but close enough to say, "I am here," for a while. Neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence is kinder than words. Then Sandra breathed in unsteadily and said something that made the entire room feel heavier. "My mother's anniversary is today. I thought I was okay. I told myself I was okay. But tonight it all came back, and I felt like I had no one to talk to." Keanu's eyes softened. He remembered Sandra's mother, the warmth, the laughter, the way she believed in her daughter with her whole heart. "You're not alone," he said softly. The words were simple, but sometimes the smallest words hold the greatest weight. Sandra's lips trembled. Tears slid down her cheeks. She did not hide them this time. Keanu reached out. Slowly, gently, his hand rested over hers. No romance, no dramatic gesture, just two hands holding pain together. She closed her eyes, letting herself feel the comfort she had denied for so long. The rain continued outside, but inside, the storm in her heart began to quiet. And yet, the night held another truth. Something Keanu had not told her. Something he had been carrying alone. A burden he had never shared with anyone. And soon, she would discover it. The rain outside had softened, but inside the room, the air still carried the heaviness of unspoken emotions. Sandra wiped her tears gently, not embarrassed, not ashamed. Keanu had always been the kind of person you could cry in front of. He looked at her, calm, patient, present in a way most people only claim to be. He did not rush to fill the silence. He let her breathe. He let her exist. After a long moment, Sandra spoke again, her voice low and rough. "I thought I was past this," she said. "I thought time healed." Keanu shook his head slightly. "Time doesn't heal. It just teaches us how to carry things differently." She looked at him, and the truth of his words sat softly between them. She leaned back into the couch, exhaling like she had held her breath for too many years. Keanu watched her carefully, as if making sure she did not drown in her own sadness. He had always been like that, gentle with other people's pain, even when he did not know how to heal his own. Sandra gave a small, tired laugh. "You always know exactly what to say." Keanu shook his head again with a slight smile. "No, I just know how to listen." That made her smile to just a little. The kind of smile that showed she was still human, still alive beneath the grief. But there was something about tonight, something heavier than old memories, something deeper than loss. Sandra felt it. She turned her eyes to him and noticed, really noticed, the tiredness in his face. Not the kind caused by long days or short nights, but the kind caused by carrying something alone for too long. "Keanu," she said softly, "why did you really come?" He looked down at his hands, the same hands that had held her pain moments ago. Now they looked uncertain, fragile, almost lost. "I didn't plan it," he said slowly. "I was just sitting at home and suddenly I felt this feeling. Like something in me knew you needed me." She waited. She knew there was more. Keanu swallowed. His voice was barely above a whisper. "And maybe I needed you too." Her heart tightened. She did not interrupt. She let him find the words. "I have been trying to be strong for so long. People look at me and they see someone calm, humble, kind. But inside, I feel tired." He paused, breathing carefully. "I keep losing people I love, one after another, and I think I learned how to live with that pain. But lately, I feel like it is getting harder." Sandra felt her chest ache. She had known pieces of his story, the tragedies, the heartbreaks, the quiet loneliness he never advertised. "Have you talked to anyone?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "No. I didn't want to be a burden." Sandra leaned closer, her voice firm but tender. "You are not a burden. You have never been a burden. Not to me." His eyes lifted, and for the first time that night, she saw something raw in them. Not pain, not sadness. Vulnerability. It was rare and precious. She placed her hand over his just as he had done earlier. The gesture mirrored, equal, not saving, not comforting, just being. "We can sit in this together," she whispered. The two of them stayed like that. No rush, no pressure. Just two souls who had carried too much for too long, finally letting themselves rest beside someone who understood. But the night was far from over, because there was still something Keanu had not told her, a decision he had made, one that could change everything between them. The clock on the wall ticked quietly. Rain drifted into a soft drizzle, almost like the night was calming itself for them. Sandra and Keanu sat together in the stillness, neither one rushing to fill it. Sometimes the most powerful moments happen in silence, when two people simply exist beside one another. But beneath the quiet, there was something building, something unspoken, something waiting. Sandra finally broke the silence, her voice gentle but steady. "Keanu, what is it you're not telling me?" He didn't look surprised. He had always known she could read him in a way most people couldn't. Maybe that was why he had come. Maybe that was why he couldn't hide. He took a slow breath, like someone preparing to step into cold water. "I've been thinking about leaving Los Angeles," he said quietly. Sandra's single quotes as heart paused. "Leaving," she repeated. "For how long?" Keanu looked down at his hands again. "I don't know. Maybe a few months, maybe longer." The room felt suddenly smaller, tighter, like the walls were leaning in. "Why?" she asked. He exhaled softly, eyes unfocused, like he was staring into memories instead of the room. "I feel like everything here reminds me of what I lost. Every street, every studio, every face. I try to move forward, but it's like the past keeps pulling me back. And lately, I started thinking maybe I need to go somewhere quiet, somewhere where I can just breathe." Sandra didn't speak, because there are moments when answers are not meant to be given. They are meant to be understood. She nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "You want to heal." Keanu offered a sad smile. "I want to remember how to live." The truth of it cut deep. She understood, too deeply, because once, she too had wanted to run from her life, from expectations, from grief, from the version of herself the world believed she had to be. Sandra leaned back, her voice soft, steady, and carefully controlled. "I'm not going to ask you to stay," she said, "because I know something like that has to come from inside you." Keanu looked at her, grateful. She wasn't trying to fix him. She wasn't trying to hold him. She was simply seeing him. But then her voice trembled, just slightly. "I just don't want to lose you." There it was, the thing neither of them had ever said out loud. Keanu felt it, a warm ache, the quiet kind that lives in the bones. He moved closer, slowly, carefully, His voice was low, sincere, honest. You're not going to lose me. Distance doesn't erase connection. People only fade when they stop caring, and I care, more than you know. Her eyes brimmed again. But these tears were different, not grief, not pain. Relief. But the moment was fragile, something delicate suspended in the air. And that was when Sandra asked the question that shifted everything that night. If you leave, will you come back? Keanu looked at her for a long time. The answer was not simple. The answer was a crossroads. The answer was a truth they had never dared to face. Finally, he spoke. That depends on something I haven't asked you yet. Sandra's breath caught. She waited. The world seemed to hold itself still. And Keanu opened his mouth to speak, but a sudden sound interrupted them. A phone vibrating on the table. Sandra, single quotes, S phone. The screen lit up. And the name glowing there was a name Keanu had not heard in years. The name of someone from their past. Someone who once stood between them. Someone who could break everything. Asterisk. The phone continued to vibrate, as if the past refused to wait even a second longer. The name on the screen glowed in the dim light, sharp and undeniable. Sandra stared at it. Breath caught in her throat. Keanu's eyes followed her gaze, and something shifted in his expression. Not anger, not jealousy, just recognition, and the quiet pain of remembering what used to be. The name belonged to Ryan, a man who had once held Sandra's heart, a man Keanu had watched her choose, even while he stayed silent, respecting her happiness. He had never spoken of it, not once, but the memory had stayed with him, quiet like a bruise that never fully healed. Sandra didn't answer the call. She just watched it ring until the sound stopped, but the silence that followed was much louder. Keanu looked away, his voice steady but softer now. You're still in touch with him? Sandra shook her head quickly. No, not really. We haven't spoken in years. I don't know why he's calling now. Keanu nodded, but there was a distance in his eyes that hadn't been there before. The kind of distance formed from fear, not fear of losing someone, but fear of hoping too much. Sandra noticed. She leaned forward, reaching for his arm. Keanu, she whispered, that part of my life is over, really over. He didn't move, didn't pull away, but he didn't answer either. The silence stretched between them like a fragile glass wall. Sandra exhaled shakily. She had always been good at being strong, even when it hurt. But tonight, something inside her refused to keep quiet. I didn't choose him over you, she said softly. You and I, we never wanted the same thing at the same time. That's all it was. Her voice trembled. Because sometimes the hardest truth is the one you carry quietly for years. Keanu turned his head slowly, meeting her eyes. I know, he said, and he meant it. I never blamed you. I just didn't know where I belonged. She nodded. Tears collected in her eyes again, but she blinked them back. You belonged, she whispered, even when you didn't see it. For a moment, the air softened again. Gentler, warmer. Then Sandra picked up her phone and blocked the number. Her hands were steady. Her decision was clear. I don't want to look backward anymore, she said. Keanu breathed in deeply. Something eased in his shoulders, and the question returned. The one he had almost spoken before the phone rang. He turned fully toward her now. No hesitation. No hiding. If I leave, he said slowly, I want to know if I have something real to come back to. Sandra felt her heart stop. This was not romance. This was not confession. This was truth. The kind of truth that could change the direction of two lives. Her voice came out small, quiet, honest. What do you want me to say? Keanu's eyes softened. The answer was simple, but not easy. Tell me whether I matter to you the way you matter to me. The room seemed to hold its breath. Sandra closed her eyes for 1 second, gathering the courage to speak from the deepest part of herself. And when she opened them again, her voice was steady. You do. You always have. Keanu's quiet inhale revealed everything he felt but did not say. But before the moment could settle, before peace could find them, a sudden knock echoed through the house. Not gentle. Not familiar. Sharp. Urgent. Sandra's single quotes S expression changed. Keanu stood. Someone was at the door. And whoever it was, they were not there for a friendly visit. The knock came again, harder this time. The sound cut through the quiet room like a blade. Sandra's eyes widened. Keanu moved to stand, the calm in his face shifting into something more alert, protective. The rain outside had stopped, but suddenly the night felt colder. Sandra placed a hand on his arm. Whispering, "Wait," she walked toward the door slowly, her steps cautious, measured. Keanu followed behind her, close enough to help, far enough to not crowd her. The knock came again, impatient this time, when Sandra opened the door. The last person she expected to see was standing on the porch. Ryan, soaking wet from the rain, eyes frantic, chest rising and falling fast like he had been running. Sandra froze. Keanu's posture stiffened behind her. Ryan looked at her with desperation, not anger, not jealousy, something deeper, something broken. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice shaking. Sandra's grip on the door tightened. "Ryan, this isn't a good time." He shook his head. "No, you don't understand. This can't wait." Keanu stepped forward, his presence calm but strong. Not threatening, just steady. "She said it isn't a good time," Keanu said quietly. Ryan looked at him then, and for a moment, something old, unspoken, and unresolved burned between them. Not rivalry, not hatred, just history. "This isn't about us," Ryan said. "It's about her, and she needs to hear this." Sandra felt her stomach tighten. The seriousness in his eyes was real, heavy. She stepped aside just enough to let Ryan into the living room. Keanu stayed close, not controlling, not interfering, just present. Ryan stood there, dripping rainwater onto the floor. His hands shook as he tried to speak. "I messed up," he began. "I let you go, and I accepted that. But I heard something today, something you need to know." Sandra folded her arms slowly. "What is it?" Ryan looked at Keanu briefly, then back to her. "Someone from your old film team has been trying to reach you. They found something of your mother's, a letter." Sandra's breath caught immediately. "A letter?" she whispered. Ryan nodded. "They found it in a storage box, when she left for you. It was supposed to be given to you years ago, but it got lost in the transfer. They only located it last week." Sandra's eyes filled instantly. She pressed her fingers over her mouth as tears broke free. Keanu's single quotes, eyes softened with deep, quiet understanding. He stepped closer, but didn't speak. Ryan swallowed hard. His voice broke in the middle. "And Sandra, the letter has your name written on the front. And inside there's something else. Something she left specifically for you. Something you never got to see." Sandra's knees weakened. Keanu gently placed a supportive hand on her back so she wouldn't fall. She leaned into him without thinking. "Why didn't they just call me?" she asked, voice trembling. Ryan exhaled sharply. "They tried. Your old number, your old manager. They couldn't reach you. They called me because they thought I still knew how to find you." Sandra shook her head slowly, tears streaming now, falling without resistance. "I thought I had lost everything that could connect me to her," she whispered. "I thought all I had were memories." Keanu tightened his hold just slightly, grounding her. Ryan's single quotes voice softened, almost breaking. "You didn't lose everything." She made sure of that. Silence filled the room, thick, tender, overwhelming. Keanu leaned his head slightly toward Sandra and spoke softly. "Just for her, you don't have to face this alone." Sandra looked up at him through tears. "Will you come with me?" she asked. There was no hesitation. "Always," he said. Ryan looked down, stepping back, understanding something, without needing to hear it said out loud. It wasn't him anymore. And he finally accepted it. But the road ahead was not simple, because the letter wasn't the only thing waiting for them. There was something inside. Something that would change everything. The morning air was quiet and still as Sandra and Keanu drove together, the city slowly waking around them. The rain had cleared, leaving the streets washed and soft with pale gray light. Sandra sat with her hands folded in her lap, her fingers twisting gently. Keanu drove without hurry, giving her room to feel whatever she needed to feel. They arrived at a small storage facility. It looked ordinary, plain metal doors, fluorescent lights. But for Sandra, it felt like walking into a part of her past she had closed long ago. A woman from the facility met them at the door, carrying a small box, old, carefully taped, protected. "This was meant for you," the woman said softly. Sandra nodded. Her voice too fragile to speak. Keanu took the box from her hands, not to take control, but to carry the weight for a moment. They walked outside to a quiet bench under a tree. The air smelled like wet earth and new beginnings. Sandra placed her hands on the box. She hesitated. Her breathing shook. Keanu sat beside her, not telling her to open it, not pushing, only being there, steady. After a moment, Sandra peeled the tape back. The box opened with a soft sigh, like the past exhaling. Inside was a folded letter, and something wrapped in soft cloth. Sandra reached for the letter first. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Her mother's handwriting was there, familiar, warm, alive. She read silently. Tears gathered, fell, gathered again. When she finished, she held the letter to her chest, eyes closed. Keanu waited, and when she could speak, she did. She knew, Sandra whispered. She knew I would struggle. She knew I would pretend to be strong. She told me it's okay to need someone. She said love is not weakness. Love is the courage to stay. Keanu's eyes softened, gentle and deep. She saw you, he said quietly. Sandra nodded, wiping her cheeks. Then she reached for the wrapped item. Her hands slowly unrolled the cloth, and inside was a tiny silver locket. Simple, beautifully worn. She clicked it open. Inside was a picture of Sandra as a child, and next to her a young Keanu, both smiling, both wild with innocence. Sandra's breath caught. She kept this all these years. Keanu stared at the picture, stunned. I don't even remember when that was taken. Sandra did. It was before everything, she whispered. Before movies, before fame, before heartbreak. We met at that audition when we were kids, and we laughed the entire day. She looked up at him, eyes trembling with meaning. She knew you were part of my story long before I did. Keanu felt his chest tighten, not with pain, but with something warm, something that felt like truth. He reached out, taking Sandra's hand gently, not asking, just holding. So now, she said, voice soft but steady, if you leave to heal, then I will wait. And when you come back, we'll see what this is. Not as a maybe, not someday, but real. Keanu looked at her, and something in his eyes, something long buried, finally exhaled. I will come back, he said. She nodded. They sat there, holding the moment between them. Not lovers, not just friends, two souls who had walked separate roads, but somehow always found their way back to the same place. Not by chance, but by something deeper, something chosen. The sun rose slowly, warm light touching both of their faces. This was not an ending. This was the beginning of the chapter they once thought they would never get to live.